And Mayauel Ward is coming to us from Manhattan Beach, California. And after Mayauel joins us, Kathy Richardson will be joining us. Okay, so Mayauel, can you hear us? Are you off mute?
I can hear you guys.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Loud and clear. Hi, Mayauel. How are you?
I'm good. It's asking me to start my video. Should I do that?
Yeah, go ahead and start your video.
Do we want? Okay.
There you are. Hey, Mayauel.
Hi. Where is everybody?
Great. So,
and these are a few
thank you
of his work. Go ahead, Pam.
Yep. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm going to do a brief introduction to you for our audience. Mayauel Ward was born and raised in Manhattan Beach, California. In 1988, Mayauel started his own glass business making lampwork paperweights in his home. Over the years, he has added vases, torchwork, paperweights, light sculptures, perfume bottles, and pendants to his line. I actually have the pleasure of owning one of those pendants. His pieces reflect his love of the ocean and nature with their coral reef and floral designs. Mayauel, I'm so excited to see your studio, so let's begin.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. This is kind of neat, kind of different. This studio originally was Paul Harry's studio. And I've been working with, I was working with him for a number of years before he passed away. And I've kind of, while still owned by Holly Harry, I've kind of inherited, running the, doing the hot shop. And anyway, I'm going to give you guys a little quick tour, walk you guys around so you can see everything. You'll notice, if I move too fast, let me know. I don't want to make anybody sick. You'll notice it's kind of an outdoor studio. We're exposed to the environment quite a bit, but it's California, so who cares, right? Anyway, all right, so let's take a quick or slow walk. I'm gonna turn myself around so you can see what's going on, and I'll be behind you. This is my bench where I do all my dirty work, and you can see it's a well-used bench. This is my torch setup. All right, this is where I do all my flame work paperweights. The torch work weights. Right here, I've got two different torches. I've got cane. It's a big mess, but kind of the way I work. The tanks. One of my marvers, what I use most of the time. You'll notice it's very quiet in here. We designed it that way on purpose. The blower that runs the furnace and runs the glory hole is up on the roof, so we don't get much noise. So we have two glory holes here. And nice thing about these is they're all run pneumatically, so I control it with my foot. All right, and the same thing here with the furnace. I can open it and close it just like that. It's a big pot furnace. It's like, I think it's 550-pound furnace, which is a lot. It lasts me a long time. We have 3 annealers. This one here, this one actually, I have some stuff I've been working on. Oops, hang on. Why is that locked up? Oh, okay. We can see in there. Oh, let me pull this. Ready. It's hard to grab it with just one hand. Let's see what we got. All right, that's a clam base I just made, and that's for an order.
That's
you guys
beautiful. Yeah, put your camera down. Yeah, there you go. Gorgeous patterning.
Thanks. Let's see what else we got. All right, vase. I have another bowl in there. You get the idea. This is I call them ebony series, and what
Mm.
I utilize silver glass that we make, or we used to make. I need to make more because I'm running very low. But it's where I take actual silver, I mix it with our own cullet in a little electric furnace that we have, and melt it down, bar it up, and then I use it and cut it as I need, and it works great. I love using it.
How long
I
does
hate
it take you, after you do your silvering process, when can you then use that to make a piece? Is it the next day? Is it that day? What's your wait time on that?
You can, when I worked years ago, I worked at Abelman Art Class. We had silver pots that were just hot glass all the time because we were running through silver glass just constantly. It was a big part of the line. So that's where I learned how to use it. I learned how to make it, so it's come in handy quite a bit.
Are you using 96, COE 96 glass?
Yeah, yeah. All these, all my colors here are either Gaffer, Reichenbach, Kugler, depending on what I need. Anyway, let's see, what else is next? Oh, this is the big Marver. In fact, you see some color. I have some color out here. As soon as we get done, I have some work to do. So
yeah, it looks like you're all ready to go.
Yeah, should I take you inside to see the cold shop?
Absolutely.
All right.
When you're working in the hot shop, are you using any special hand tools or optic molds?
Actually, I do. Here, let's walk back. They're kind of holding.
One of our audience members wanted to know.
I use a lot of optic molds. You can see here. This is an interesting one. This one actually, Paul made this one himself. He cast that one.
Oh, wow.
And the other ones are, I think they're Steinart.
Now those molds are pretty large, so you're tending to work fairly big, correct?
Yeah. Well, when I do, if I do I do a line of Tiffany style vases. So we'll, when I make those, I'll use the big mold, and I use them too if I'm pulling cane. The advantage of having a glass studio like this is when you're pulling cane, you pull a lot of cane. So it'll last me for just, sometimes I'll get a year's time out of it. Anyway, okay, so here we are in the cold shop, and we have pretty much everything that you would possibly need to cut and polish glass. We have different wheels, a polishing pad over here, belt sander. That needs to be replaced for cutting glass. One of our saws. We have two different grit silicon carbide wheels that we use. We have pumice in different sizes. The diamond wheel. I tend to use the diamond wheel a lot. And you can see I've got loads of stock. One of the things I hate doing is the cold work. So it tends to
Do you do all your own cold working?
Almost all. I've got one guy that comes in. In fact, what I'll do is I'll prep stuff for him. I'll get it where I want it, ground where I want it. Then I'll call him in, and he'll take it to a polish for me. I don't use them all the time, but I use them sometimes. And you see here, this is more of that silver glass right there.
Oh, yeah, on the inside too, correct?
You can see,
Yeah.
I've got quite a bit of stock. Anybody needs anything? At the moment, yeah, we have.
So this space is fairly large. Are you sharing this with others as well?
Yeah, in a way. Here, I'll walk you through here. That's our shipping room. And you'll see interspaced throughout, there's some of Paul Harry's pieces, all right? We're still, currently we're not making it. We are from time to time making Paul's work and shipping it as we need it.
Mm-hmm.
See, he has there's a lot of paperweight.
Wow. So how many total artists do you have working in this space?
Right now, it's just me solo because, you know, we're shut down.
Oh, wow.
I can work by myself, but I can't have anybody working with me or...
Well, yeah.
Normally, we have one guy that comes, the guy that used to work for Paul, assist Paul, comes in and makes vases for us from time to time. That's Vicente. And then we have this other guy who comes in and he's a renter. I think you've just seen most of the studio. I'm not taking you into the office or the bathroom because, well, they look like, you know, like that.
Yeah.
What else can I show you? Let's go back out here. This is all and where machinery comes to die.
I see. Or be repurposed in some creative way.
Well, some of it we actually use still from time to time, but a lot of the things that we used to do, we're no longer doing. I used to do some collaborative pieces with Paul that he's not here anymore, so we're not doing them anymore.
Right.
Anyway, I think we have a video you want to show.
We do. Are you ready?
I think so. I'll just talk over it. What it is, last 2 years ago, when we were at Wheaton, we did a demonstration, and this was with Skit, which you guys all know. And he was assisting me, and you'll see later on. I can see it fine.
Yeah, I can see it too.
Great.
Okay. So anyway, right now he's assisting me to put the design on. We went huge, bigger than I ever thought. All right. I mean, out of my range. And if not for Sketch, that piece would not have been made. Wouldn't have been that big for sure.
So would you say it's like double, quadruple? How large is it compared to what you normally make?
I normally will, when I'm doing this style vase, we'll try to keep it around, say 15 pounds. And I will max out at about 20 pounds. This particular one came in at 30 pounds.
Wow.
And it was a monster. And it was interesting. I'd never worked on that size before. I'd never worked with an assistant before like that, where he was doing at the end. He was doing all the heat, you know, for me because I wasn't going to do them.
Mhm.
And you see right here. All right. So I put the flowers on, and I'm marvering it a little bit, melting it, getting everything, smoothing it out. Next, I'll reheat, and then I'll bring it back to the bench, and I'll start pulling and shaping it to make the flower form. That's what we're doing right there. All right, and here I am putting, I'm torching on the centers of the flowers. And normally, when I work solo, the entire design is done with a torch. You know, where I'll stand the pipe up and I'll just work on the side of it. Now, the interesting thing, if I'm working on a paperweight, I'm working straight, you know, regular, where I see the orientation of the piece. When I'm doing a vase, everything has to be upside down. So if I'm doing fish, butterfly, everything I have to do in a reverse pattern. So I have to imagine it being flipped over, essentially.
Wow.
which I've gotten used to doing.
I was going to say, was that a challenge at first, but now do you kind of work well in reverse because you're so used to it?
Yeah, definitely. And another thing was flower placement. When I first started doing vases, I had to learn where what I could get away with in terms, because when you make a vase, as you see here, it's a round ball. It's going to be changed into a long, elongated piece. Well, there's going to be some stretching. And what happens is, when it stretches, the flowers and the leaves and everything on the bottom portion of the vase stretch out. Sometimes that's okay, but if you're doing like, if I'm doing a coral reef scene, like with fish or something like that, that's not okay, because it'll distort the butterflies or the fish in such a way that they no longer look like what they're intended to look like. So I tend to keep the animals up higher in the shoulder where they're safe, where everything will be okay, and let everything else stretch out down below. Okay, now you can see here, this is really starting to help. What I'm doing there with the torch is, I think we're getting ready for one more gather, and I'm trying to melt in those flowers all the way so that when we gather over it, we don't trap any air bubbles. If you have any indentation on there, it's gonna trap air. So,
Sure. And
necessary
I'm
part
sure
of
the quality of the glass plays a role as well. Do you ever have challenges getting quality glass?
Not anymore. I did for a while. I rebuilt this furnace last year, and I made some changes in the temperature and how we melted, and we get pristine glass. And that, for what I do, that's very. Okay, now you see this is turned into this monster vase. All right, so he's gotta do the heavy lifting for me. It's just crazy. You know, I'll still show stuff from where I can, but yeah, it was different. I've never worked quite that intimately with another glass blower like that. I have helpers, but the way I learned, I was always working solo, so it was hard for me to make that transition. I'm starting to now. I'm trying to make it so that when I work with another helper, let them take some of the heat and do some of the heavy lifting for me to make the, you know.
You keep mentioning, you know, when you started. When and where did you start?
Okay, I started originally at Korea Art Class. And I was there for a couple of years. And, well, let me step back. Before that, I learned originally, I got my first initial exposure to glass when I was going to a local junior college in California. And as it turns out, it was run by my future employer, Stuart Abelman. And anyway, so I was at Korea for a couple of years. Stuart opened up his own shop, and then he asked me if I wanted to come on, and I went, and I was at Stuart's studio for over 30 years. If you look at the, hey, that's a hefty piece. You got to really. Anyway, so I was there for quite a long time, and I finally I started working on my solo work. I was thinking in the 90s, the beginning of the 90s, and I was making something, selling, coming in the weekend. I was teaching myself how to do porch work at the studio on the weekends, and then at home, I was teaching myself. I built a little studio in my garage, and I was teaching myself how to do lamp work. So, yeah, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, actually, when you look at it from that standpoint. You know, I do a little of everything.
So at this point in the video, it looks like you opened up the vase and now you're shaping kind of the lip of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah, yeah. Which is
And
another.
this is that part.
Go ahead.
Oh, and this is that part where you're talking about the stretching and pulling and opening could distort the pattern that you previously placed down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Flower placement is very critical.
Mm-hmm.
Very critical. And this was for me, this was a very different experience because I'd never shaped from that side of the bench. I'd never worked from that side of the bench. I just had never done it. So it was kind of neat.
Have you done it since?
No, I haven't. I now have, when I'm doing my bigger, heavier pieces, I have a couple of helpers that will turn pipe for me while I'm working, and they'll take a couple of pieces, but that's kind of it. I'm more, I get very anal about the form, and you know, when it goes in the glory hole, I know the area that I want to heat it up. I know the shape that I want it to be, and so yeah, it's better if I do it. But anyway,
And here's
a very unique piece, and I think it came out real nice. And
gorgeous.
yeah, this is it. This is the vase in its home. And you can see those flowers, like that yellow flower. What I'll do is I pre-made these colors. So that was, I take white, I overlaid it with yellow, and then I picked up chips of colored glass that I knew were going to eat into the yellow and cause that, the white to bleed out from underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get a really nice effect that way. I do that a lot. I do that a lot on a lot of my flowers.
So even before you begin laying down the color, you have a plan well in advance.
Yeah, yeah. And they don't always work out, but I know in advance what I'm going to make and what I'm going to do. And
that's fantastic. As far as your subject matter goes, where are you pulling inspiration for what you're putting into your work?
Well, most of the floral designs that I do, I take a great deal of artistic license with, where if I see a flower that I like, or there's a portion of the flower that I like, and I can put it with this flower over here, as long as it looks natural, I'm okay with that. I think that's a great thing to do. So I usually when people ask me, oh, you know, if I'm doing a show or something, someone will come up and, are these, you know, hibiscus or something like that? I say, oh, yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's
if you love hibiscus, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they see, then that's definitely what it is.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of, you know, flowers that are stylized in that way. Everybody brings their own relatability onto it and what their experiences they put onto the work. So, for example, when I was looking at a lot of your work, I noticed there's a painterly quality to it. So I was almost starting to see them as three-dimensional, you know, paintings that are just kind of exist in the same space as you do. Do you pull any inspiration from painting?
Oh, absolutely. My father was a painter, and
wonderful.
in fact, for a little while, when I was just like 5 or 6, we owned an art gallery. There was nearby in Redondo Beach. There was a gallery row, and he was a wannabe artist. It didn't work out for him, and he ended up in a tech company. But he was.
So did he teach you how to paint?
Yeah, a little bit in the beginning we did, but you know, we were kids, so I ended up not following through so much on that. I got back into it a little bit more when I was going to the JC, and before I got involved in glass, I took light drawing, watercolor, that sort of thing. In fact, there's a line of pieces that I do now that I call watercolor, and that's one of the ones that I require, somebody bringing me color, bringing me bits. And the reason I call it watercolor is because everything's on the surface. And normally I want everything to be really tight and clean. But in this case, I don't. I like the interaction of the colors. If the green bleeds out into the surrounding color behind it, great. And if the flower bleeds and some of the color from underneath the flower comes through, that's great too. So I try to utilize that as much as possible. And so, yeah, those to me, yeah, they have a very painterly feel.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because when you're talking about the layering, that's very much similar to what you do in watercolors, and how you plan for those layerings well in advance. It's not there's a little bit of reaction to it, it seems, but there's also planning. So it's this beautiful marriage of the two that I think, as many other people do, you're accomplishing it so well. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Is there any last bits of information that you would like to include before we move on?
I can't think of any. Do you have any no questions or anything like that?
No, we covered them all. Well, there is one person who's asking about your paperweights, and they asked if when you started in the beginning, were you using a vacuum pump for encasing your paperweights?
Oh yes, yeah. I use originally I had my original collar and base it was Stein Art, as I believe. I don't want to say for sure, but I'm positive. And then I purchased Chris Bazzini's setup when he retired. So I've been using that. That's great. That really helped a lot. It made a big difference. I have a vacuum pump that I got through Gordy. He facilitated getting a better pump than I had originally. My original encasements I was doing at Abelman, and I remember I was using furnace glass, which was really poor quality, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew I had to encase these things, but I wasn't sure just how to do it, So I kind of moved along. First, I was just picking them up off a flat surface. And then I realized, well, that's not really going to work because that leaves all these gaps, and it's really difficult to melt everything back in without destroying the design. So it was trial and error. And finally, I decided in order to really do this right, I needed my own studio in my garage so I could control the quality, I could control the cleanliness, and that's what I did.
Great. And there are a few people that are liking, I don't want to go too much into detail because I know one of our panelists, our future panelists, is going to go into it, but everyone likes your shout out to Project Fire on your t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
So without going into too much information, do you just want to quickly explain to people what Project Fire is, but without going too deep, because I know one of our other panelists is going to.
Project Fire is an organization. When we first went to, we did a show in the Paperweight Arts show in Chicago with L.A. Selman. And as a side thing, we did demos at the studio Project Fire with Pearl Dick. I didn't know at the time. I thought it was an outreach for poor kids, just to get them, out, give them something to do, that sort of thing. I came to learn that every kid in there had actually been physically shot. And which was shock. I mean, mind-boggling, the thought of that. But anyway, talking through with the therapist there, he said he's got a little pager on his around his waist that he said every time a kid gets shot, it goes off. He goes to see him, and hopefully, what they're trying to do is they're trying to, keep it from escalating. Because what happens is these things escalate and escalate and escalate, and it just gets worse and worse. And they're trying to, get these kids working together, understanding each other, and so far it looks like they're very successful at it. I was very impressed by it.
Yeah, they're a great organization. Well, thank you so much, Mayauel, for joining us. Thank you for sharing your time, showing us your amazing space. I'm going to move it over to Marcy now, and
Okay.
it was, again, great talking to you.
Well, Mayauel, I want to, whoops,
Okay.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say thank you as well. And I know this is really special for so many people that have not made it to WheatonArts for Paperweight Fest, because I got to answer a lot of the emails where people said, oh, this is so wonderful. I'm so glad you're doing this. I've never been able to make it there before. And now you have shared last Paperweight Fest and your beautiful studio. And it's just so nice to see.
Well, go ahead.
Right.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been fun. You know, it was interesting, and thanks for asking me. And it seems like you've got all the bugs worked out. It looks, from my end, it looks pretty good.
Well,
so glad to hear that.
Well, bye, everybody.
Well, thank you, Mayauel. See you.
Take care.